What's up guys, I'm AllFunandJames0 and today I'm going to be talking about the very promising Viking survival game Valheim. Viking crafting survival game with base building, ship building and epic boss battles. I'm sure for many of you that short description sounds pretty awesome. Many people love Viking themes and we all know about the enduring success of survival games. In fact, you would have thought that the coupling of Viking and survival would have been a well-trodden path already. Many will recall the success of Viking RTS / base builder Northgard, and others may also remember the not so impressive but still quite good hack and slash title Viking Battle for Asgard. Surprisingly though, to my knowledge, a true crafting survival game with a Viking theme has not yet been done, at least not with great success. That is, until now. A few days ago, Valheim's early access went live. The game is developed by a small Swedish team called Irongate AB and is published by Coffee Stain Publishing. Luckily for them, it is already off to a very strong start. At the time of writing, the game has nearly 2,000 reviews on Steam, described as overwhelmingly positive. It's also seen good traction on live streaming platforms and YouTube, peaking at 59 concurrent viewers on Twitch according to sullygnome.com. You begin the game in Viking Purgatory after being dropped off by a great big bird thing. Once you've landed in the rather pretty procedurally generated world, you are greeted by the rather knowledgeable Hugin, or maybe Hugin, a mythological raven who works part-time as the Microsoft paperclip. Hugin/Hugin gives you some basic info about the game, and with that you are free to get started. He does check in with you from time to time to give you further updates and see how you're getting on though. You begin by gathering resources, hunting for food, then crafting items, building a base, equipping yourself with gear, and ultimately going down to hunt the big bads, which are a series of mythical creatures each linked to their own zone. Whilst exploring the world, your player character is affected by hunger, temperature, being exposed to the elements, and of course combat. Oh, and trees. Be very careful of the trees.
Ooh, ow.
This mixture of well-established gameplay features and loops that have proven successful in other titles have been blended to create an interesting game, with a fairly unique feel to it despite having similar features to others in the survival genre. The crafting system and auto-snap building system is akin to that of Rust, but with less depth to the tech tree. You are Vikings from the medieval era, of course, so no guns and helicopters, I'm afraid. The thing that stands out to me so far though is the combat system, which the developers describe as a dodge and block system which plays out like a Dark Souls-esque slash and roll away style action game. In my admittedly short time playing Valheim so far, the combat has been mostly simple but still engaging. The initial monsters that you face are trivial and more a nuisance than anything. However, as you venture further from your starting point, the enemies increase in variety and danger, and of course the bosses are significantly harder. I found out the hard way that it is quite easy to be surrounded and overwhelmed when in thick forest. I have so far managed to kill the first boss on my second attempt, although I must admit that during the first attempt the mighty deer got caught on a rock and I was able to cheese most of his health with a bow. Then when he managed to get free of his rocky prison, he ran me down and killed me, and when I returned his health was where I left it after the first fight. I'm not sure if this is intentional, and it did feel like it made the fight quite a lot easier than it should have been. Nonetheless, it was challenging and fun, and importantly, it got me excited about what other boss fights are to come. The crafting and building systems have a variety of items and modular building parts, such as sections of wall, rectangles of thatch roof at varying degrees, etc., and seem like they have a decent amount of meat to them. I haven't explored them fully, but there is a system of progressing complexity, beginning with gathering stones and sticks from the floor to make basic stone axes, until eventually you are smelting bronze and building long hauls. You're encouraged to build shelter and a fire as soon as possible to protect you from the rain and the cold, and an atmosphere building runestone informed me of the possibility to tame boar, but so far that hasn't exactly gone well. Unfortunately, some of the menus and tools used to craft and build can be a bit fiddly at times. There was a number of occasions where I found myself bumbling around with a random building blueprint in front of me as I tried to clear it from the hammer tool menu or struggled to get it in the exact position I wanted. However, I don't think it detracts from the game in a big way, it's just something that will take a little getting used to for some people, myself included. Although I'm sure it will get easier as I learn the hotkeys and the community provides more feedback to the developers so that they can make it more user friendly. The sailing is an interesting feature and has the potential to be a very engaging aspect of the game. My initial experience of the most basic ship the raft, was a bit clunky. However, I feel that is more by design, as it is merely a simple log raft with a single sail. I would assume that as you use more advanced crafts such as longboats, the speed and maneuverability changes accordingly. The UI whilst navigating a ship is simplistic but intuitive and relies on small icons to give you basic information like wind direction and how far the oar is turned. I must admit, as someone who is afraid of deep water, I actually found myself feeling uneasy on my first attempt at crossing the bay when bad weather rolled in. If anything though, that vouches for the immersive feel to it. The graphics are unique and the overall aesthetic is pleasing, at least in my opinion. I think many people will share that opinion. However, I base that on the assumption that many people who play the survival genre play mostly for the game's concept and the features rather than because of the visual beauty of a survival game. That's not to say it isn't a good looking game, it really is. The lighting is immersive for the most part, but some of the reflections can be a bit weird. The procedurally generated world can put together some rather beautiful scenery that often left me wandering aimlessly at times, just appreciating the environment around me. The devs have said that they are going for a low-res, low-poly style reminiscent of PlayStation 1 graphics combined with contemporary lighting and particle effects. So for those of you who are all about the latest and greatest graphics and are wanting to unleash your 3090 on whatever AAA blockbuster title you can get your hands on, you might be a bit underwhelmed. It's a certain art style though, and I'm personally a fan of it. It also comes with practical benefits, such as the game being a mere 1 GB, which took me all of 5 minutes to download. Which brings me nicely to my next point, performance and stability. For an early access game, it is remarkably stable. In my time playing it, I have yet to come across any noticeable bugs, the one exception being a seemingly invincible seagull. But this isn't Monty Python and the Holy Grail, so small animals aren't really a threat. However, whilst it is stable, the performance can be a bit iffy at times. Not enough to ruin the experience, but sometimes the FPS can drop noticeably, which is a little surprising given the low resolution textures. That can easily be chalked up to it being a newly released early access though, and one would hope that it is addressed as updates are rolled out. Another minor graphical performance gripe for me is the draw distance. It only really became apparent when sailing across a bay upon my log raft. Whereas usually you are surrounded by forests or in meadows ringed by trees, when you were on the water there was enough space around you for the draw distance to become an issue. Unfortunately, it did break the immersion for me a little bit when I was sailing towards a seemingly barren shoreline, only to have the trees pop in suddenly as I approached. I suppose it only seemed apparent to me because prior to that I had been enjoying the rather beautiful vistas when I was close to shore, only to have it morph into a grey blobby mass as I pulled away. So in conclusion, despite those minor complaints, and for me they really were minor, especially in the context of how early the game is in its development, I would thoroughly recommend this game, especially at the £15/$20 price point. For an early access game, it already has an impressive array of features that show great potential, and if the development roadmap is anything to go by, Iron Gate will likely realise that potential. This game has a distinct art style that will likely evoke 90s gaming nostalgia for many, and still intrigue those of a younger generation, but most importantly, it feels cool to play. You're a Viking fighting mighty mythological beasts, while felling great trees and building ships and long hauls. What's not to like? I've been All Fun and James Zero, and thanks for watching. And for those of you who like the look of this game, let me know in the comments if you intend to buy it or if there's any similar games that you would recommend.